My name is Brett Weymark and I'm the Artistic and Music Director of the Sydney Philharmonia Choirs. We're here at the Sydney Opera House to talk to the director of our up-and-coming production of Candide, Mitchell Butel.
Hello, Brett.
Nice to see you too.
Shame you couldn't get somewhere nice to do this interview.
It's terrible, isn't it? Shocking. Shocking. Tell us a little bit about the first experience you ever had of Candide. When were you aware of Candide by Bernstein?
Candide's been on my radar for many years. I remember when I was a young thing, the Nimrod production was on with
at the Seymour
Centre.
Yep,
That's right.
yep.
Philip Quast, the great Philip Quast played Candide. John Ewing was Pangloss, directed by the great John Bell. And I didn't see it at the time, but I have since seen a bootleg video of that production.
Do you still have it? Probably not.
I think Tony Sheldon has it.
Okay,
yeah.
I think we'll have to see that.
And I became very familiar with the original Broadway cast recording.
So that's the Hellman script?
That's correct.
So that's the original script, which was sort of inspired by The Lark, and then it sort of became a fully blown work. Yep.
And the great Barbara Cook playing Cunegonde in that one. And from then I became very aware of the version the New York Philharmonic did, conducted by
Marin
Alsop,
yep.
with Patti LuPone, Kristen Chenoweth, Thomas Allen, Paul Groves.
And that's the cast we've got, isn't it?
We've got all of them.
We've got all of those.
We've got a better cast here.
We've got a better cast.
An incredible cast here. We've got Caroline O'Connor playing the Patti LuPone role, playing the old lady. She's magnificent. We've got the wonderful Alex Lewis playing Candide, who is one of the world's greatest opera singers at the moment. From Covent Garden to the Met to the Comish, we have him here, and Australian boy. The wonderful Annie Aitken, who I think is going to be a huge opera and music.
She's quite a find, isn't she?
Oh my God!
Yeah, because we auditioned a lot of very prominent sopranos.
And all of whom were fantastic. But Annie, the voice was just electric. I mean, as we
exactly.
remember,
we could have. It's almost like I remember you and I talking at the time, going, we could have gone with a very safe choice, but actually, Annie's just dynamite.
A fantastic actress and. Like up for anything, and looks like a Hollywood movie star as well. She's great, and of course the great Kanen Breen, Opera Australia stalwart Kanen Breen playing Maximilian, the comic.
We have no idea what he's going to do we?
Yeah, I think it'll be fun.
Utterly dangerous on stage, which is great.
Yeah. So it's a great cast. It's such a wonderful piece, and it kind of is a vehicle for brilliance. You know, you actually need brilliant people to do it, and we're lucky that we've got them.
So have you ever seen a fully staged production?
No, I've never seen it live. I know that there was a version in the Domain some years ago I didn't see, but I think that's good. I mean, because my kind of appreciation of it, having seen those videos, whatnot, but comes from the music and the kind of those fantastic lyrics from all those wonderful writers.
It wouldn't be wrong to say that, I mean, the music has always been lauded as genius, sheer genius from Bernstein. It's the 1950s, it's when he's becoming very famous as a conductor. He's also becoming extremely well known as a writer and composer of musicals. West Side Story is virtually around the same period as this totally different work. So the music is always seen as a masterpiece and continues to be. But it's always a little bit problematic, the script, the libretto, of which there are various versions.
I think it's very good, the libretto script. It's just very long. So and so much happens. I mean, the key to our version, I think, is a lot of that kind of, because it's a concert version with a 80-piece orchestra. Is that how big it is?
Yeah.
There's not a lot of room. Like, we can't suddenly build Venice or build Constantinople.
Yeah.
So some of that, the version that we have licensed kind of streamlines some of that stuff, so that the concentration is on the music and those fantastic lyrics from writers like Lillian Hellman, Dorothy Parker, John Latouche, Stephen Sondheim. Yeah. They're all in there, and I think that's the juice of the piece. And so
there's more librettists than producers for a Broadway show, really, aren't there?
So as I say, I think that's the juice, and the juice will be in full action here in the concert hall.
I think the other thing about doing it in concert, though, is it really relies on the mettle of the people that you've cast.
Absolutely.
And that's from the orchestra through to the chorus. I mean, we've got a very large chorus of over 400 singers who will be providing. And that's the strange thing, unlike West Side Story, which was essentially written for dancers. This is written for people who can really... You've got the full gamut. You've got massive sort of big operatic arias. You've got operatic choruses. You've really got, show-stopping moments for the chorus to do and the orchestra to do.
But dare I say, I reckon this will be the biggest choir that Candide has ever had, possibly in the world.
Highly possible.
It's like 450?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
That's amazing. Like, I mean, all the versions I've seen or heard don't have that kind of... So for that choir, and particularly a choir as good as the Sydney Phil, to be singing Make Our Garden Grow and Alleluia and all that, it already is goosebumps underneath this very puffy jacket.
It's interesting. I mean, it's Bernstein's 100th year, so there's lots of celebrations of Bernstein around the world, from mass through to the symphonies, through to various performances of the musicals. Candide's a very interesting one. It came out of the 50s again. It was a very almost dangerous political period in America. You can't help but think that Bernstein was in some way addressing some of the problems that America was facing post-World War II in a slightly suspicious society that was quite conservative, that was keen on suppressing.
And I think it's very resonant for now too. I mean, when he conducted it in London, I think it was 1989, which is one of his last performances. It's on YouTube. There's a very beautiful speech before the concert about what the piece means to him and what Voltaire was about, and the whole notion that Voltaire was kind of satirising, over an overabundance of optimism, because and Bernstein says in his pre-concert talk that optimism, while it's not a bad thing, it can breed complacency and lethargy and a failure to kind of question and to try and make the world a better place. And I think America at the moment is it's what's happening politically. There is a need to question and to kind of stand up against stuff, and also to the ultimate kind of, one of the ultimate themes of the show is we need to protect our own, and we need to cultivate, but with a view to making the world a better place, and not being like, oh well, everything's fine and we'll just take what we need, and that we actually need to take stock and to kind of appreciate our fellow man. I think that's what the piece is about, and I think this time it's a really great time not only to celebrate his great legacy in the 100-year anniversary since his birth, but it's got a lot of meaning for a modern audience.
And Voltaire's original novella, it's a very short book, it's a very fast-paced book, written over 300 years ago, essentially puts the church, it puts government, it puts armies, it puts nationalism, it takes philosophy and has a stab at that. So essentially, through the engine of comedy, actually is a very sharp, pointed satire. Is there something in this piece that Bernstein sort of explores as well, do you think, with this piece?
Yeah, well, I think, he was such a political man as well, and he said what he meant all the time, and he was a great lover and teacher of young people as well, and I think in young people he saw a lot of hope for the world to be changed and to be bettered, and for social justice kind of issues to be progressed. And the focus of our version too, which is involving a lot of young people, I think is kind of would be something that Lenny would like. We have the Sydney Youth Orchestra playing for us. We have members of the Pacific Opera, the young opera company here in Sydney, playing out many of our supporting roles. So I think he'd be really onto all that stuff. I think he'd dig it.
Yeah. So look, what experience do you want the audience to walk away with, having seen, a performance of Candide here with these massive forces?
I would hope that they take the themes of the show away about, taking care of the planet, of yourself and of your loved ones, and take that away. But also to celebrate his incredible, magnificent artistry, but also the artistry of the people involved, your good self and this beautiful choir, these incredible soloists, and as I say, the youth of the SYO. There's something about like communing in a great theatre, particularly one as beautiful as the concert hall here at the Sydney Opera House.
Do you know? I don't think it's ever been performed here.
Oh, really?
So you mentioned the Nimrod production. Of course, it's been done in the Domain, but actually, I think this is a very. When you consider how important this piece is, and how many sopranos have learnt "Glitter and Be Gay," and how many tenors, it is amazing.
Because he's conducted here, hasn't he?
He has conducted here.
Yeah,
the Sydney Symphony actually.
Yeah.
Conducted here.
When he and Margaret Whitlam became
Indeed.
friends.
Yes, exactly. So, I think that was his only visit to Australia.
Right. Oh, how amazing.
Yeah. No, and it's interesting, he did spend a lot of time with youth orchestras while he was here as well. So that particular thing, which of course became his entire raison d'etre towards the end of his life, he spent all his time teaching, essentially. And it's interesting that at the centre of this piece, back in 1956, is a teacher, Pangloss, who puts down the philosophy upon which this... It's almost like a road novel, isn't it? It's this journey of Candide through all of these calamities and catastrophes in order to, like T.S. Eliot, come back to where he began.
And Pangloss learns too, because Pangloss is, that everything happens for the best of all possible reasons, which is the kind of maxim that Voltaire and Bernstein were trying to, expose. Like, that's not actually how the world works. And I think Pangloss learns as well, like, oh, maybe I don't know as much as I thought I did. But that experience is actually what teaches us rather than pre-held suppositions about how the world operates. So you'll come out learning and you'll come out experiencing great music and great talent from this concert.
Just one final question. Just you've directed theatre productions. You work as an actor. In terms of staging something like this in a concert hall, what's the process? How is it different for you?
Yeah, because we don't have a whole lot of space because we've got the 80 strong orchestra there, and also the choir behind us. We don't have a whole lot of room to move heaps of stuff. So I think the focus will be very much on our performers downstage in front of your good self, in front of the podium. But with the great thing about the concert hall is the focus on that stage is quite electric and intense. So I think it's a really good place to experience, good actors and good singers kind of really massaging this material for the benefit of those 2,000 people watching.
And it's funny because the irony is, back in the 50s, you had big orchestras in the pit, but it wasn't actually until he heard the Scottish Opera production that he even then re-orchestrated it for that performance we were talking about in London. And that's so it's funny what we're presenting here is a hybrid, isn't it, of nearly all the different versions that exist. The orchestrations from the Scottish and that final London production. Some of the text is from Lehman, but actually a lot of it is Hugh Wheeler as well. So, it's a real compository of all the different versions almost in this one version that we're doing.
It's a degustation taster
That's
of all
very
the
good.
very different versions of Candide. But with the kind of the core elements that make it so magnificent and timeless as well.
Well, we're very excited about it. Look
Me
forward
too.
to working with you.
Yes,
and
indeed.
come and see it at the Sydney Opera House in September. 2 performances of Bernstein's Candide in the year where we're celebrating his 100th birthday.